It now gives me great pleasure to invite our plenary keynote speaker, Mr. Alok Mittal, Managing Director, Cannan Partners. Alok has a broad range of experience founding, funding, and supporting early-stage technology companies. He leads Cannan's investments in India and focuses on digital media and mobile companies, as well as innovators in managed software services and other IT-enabled businesses. Alok is also co-founder of the Indian Angel Network, on the board of TAI in Delhi, and an advisor to AdTech India. During the course of his association with Cannan India, he has advised Cannan Partners in their investment in Bharat Matrimony, Equitas, iYogi, M-Carbon, United Lex, Car Trade, and Happiest Minds. Prior to joining the venture industry, Alok co-founded jobsahead.com, a leading web-based recruitment business, which was acquired by Monster.com, the global leader in online recruitment. I would now like to welcome Mr. Alok Mittal on the dais.
Thank you. This is a little bit of a replacement speaker here. The Mohit was going to come in here. I think he had another. Okay. Oh, I have to stand here. Okay. So I had to kind of chip in for that. This was going to be a funding session. It no longer is going to be a funding session. Sorry for that. I actually tweeted yesterday to ask people for suggestions about what I should speak. And a friend said, entrepreneurs love anecdotes. So I'm going to tell you a few stories of my association with entrepreneurs and what I loved about them, which I believe not just creates funding success, but business success. And I think each of these people are people who would spread success. To me, that, just as human beings, that's a key parameter of what I consider to be successful. Is not just to be successful yourself, but help other people be successful. So with that, I'll get started. And help me with identifying some of these people. Forward, yes. Do people recognize? Folks at NASSCOM would. This is Mr. Arun Kumar, late Mr. Arun Kumar. He was the managing director for Hughes Software System, which is now Edison. He was my first boss's boss's boss, right? So he was 3 levels above me when I started my career, my first job. You know what a boss's boss's boss looks like, right? Everyone here does. Right? So if I could catch a glimpse of him, that was a privilege at that time. And I worked in Hughes for all of 3.5 years. In 1999, I resigned to start my own company. So I got a call from him. And what he told me was this. He said, Alok, we like what you've done for us, and I love the fact that you're going and doing your own startup. But if for any reason it does not work out, remember that we always have a place for you. He took the risk out of my startup for me personally on day 0. I think that is the power of a mentor, right? Going into that startup, I had no career risk left because of that one call. 5 years later, and he, I saw him more often in the next 5 years than I did in the prior ones. So we were engaged at that time. I sold my company and I went back to him and I said, Arun, what should I do now? And I think there is a lot of buzz around mentorship today in the ecosystem, right? All of us like to be mentors. Even if you don't want my mentoring, I will be your mentor. And he had this unique ability in the next 20 minutes to get me to articulate what I wanted to do, right? And then enable me to do that. He did not tell me what I should be doing. He asked me, what do you want to do? And then he started taking risks out of that, of saying, yeah, if that is what you want to do, that should be eminently possible, right? I only later realized what was the trick he was playing with me, right? But my message to mentors out there would be, play the same trick. It is our job as mentors to enable, not to advise. So he's one person I'd lay out there as someone who has influenced me deeply. And as I look at the entrepreneurial ecosystem and I start thinking about what is going to create great companies, I think it's mentors such as himself. Do people recognize him? This is Ashish Dhawan. He was my first investor. Right? So he funded us at Jobs Ahead within 6 months of us founding the company. He was, I think, 30 years old at that time. had just come back from Harvard, in fact. Actually, Harvard, Goldman Sachs, and then he came here and set up one of the first venture capital firms, private venture capital firms of recent times. He to me, has stood out as a pioneer. When he did Chris Cap Venture Fund, he was one of the first people to come in here and come here with full conviction in what the Indian opportunity represented. The dream that Ravi outlined today, that was the same dream being outlined 15 years back for different reasons. Right? Today there is the cloud mobility revolution. That was the internet revolution. And he was the flag bearer for that. Within 12 months, he realized that he had placed the wrong bet, right? Including ourselves. He twisted his entire model and created what has become the country's most successful private equity franchise, called Chris Capital. As being part of that, he not just became successful himself, but he in fact, helped the whole private equity industry in India gather steam. A lot of the brand value that exists in Indian private equity today exists because of people like Ashish out there. But that is not what is impressive about him. What is impressive about him is 3 years back, he gave it all up. Right? And he gave it all up to pioneer another area, which is to change the way philanthropy is done in the country. He founded a company, a non-profit called Central Square Foundation, which is focused on the education space and seeks to bring more evidence into how philanthropy is done. Right? So he has now again set an example for many people like yourself and me to say, what can we do with our lives which is distinctly superior or different or pioneering relative to how we have lived it before. The other lesson that Ashish leaves me with is, there's again a lot of glorification of risk in the space of entrepreneurship. Right? When I look at what Ashish has done, I think he has tried to maximize the power of vision by minimizing risk. And to me, that is a hallmark of successful entrepreneurs. Great entrepreneurs don't maximize risk. They minimize risk, but they maximize value. And I think he's one person who represents that for me. By the way, those are not his kids. This is Central Square Foundation. This is a classroom that one of their funded companies runs. Anyone recognize him? No? So this is Janaki Raman Murugavel, founder of Bharat Matrimony. This was my first investee company. Right? So you come from my first job to my own company investor and then my first investee company. Muruga started Bharat Matrimony. He actually claims he got married through Bharat Matrimony. So this is the picture I could find for him. I have not been able to validate this so far. So other than this picture, no further comments on this. But he started this company on the side in 1997, relocated back to India in 2001, and took his first investment from ourselves and Yahoo at that point in time in 2006. So almost 10 years after he started the company. After we made the investment, I went there for the first board meeting. And these were Muruga's words. He said, Alok, I've run this company for 10 years, and I could run it for another 20 years. Right? Now, my only comment to him was, please don't keep me in for 20 years. But besides that, it reflected a level of commitment that he had to the purpose behind the business. In fact, after a few years, when there was all the talk about dating services and whether dating will take off in India or not, the board obviously asked him, Muruga, what do you think about launching a dating site now? And his response was, Alok, we think that through successful marriages, we are building a powerful nation. And so I want to be extremely careful about what I do in the dating space, because it does not further my purpose of building a strong India. Now, this is not humbug 30,000 feet. This is a board discussion where you will decide what the company will do or not do. And I think that is the sense of commitment that great entrepreneurs bring to the table. Okay. Any guesses? This is an entrepreneur by the name of P.N. Vasudevan. Started a company called Equitas Microfinance in Chennai in 2009-10 timeframe. This was my first late-stage investment, and hence my association with the company. What Vasu exemplifies is the power of execution. Right? For those of you who are familiar with the microfinance industry, 2010 was the time when this industry went through a lot of turbulence. Right? Just like we talk about the dot-com bust in '99, that bust happened in 2010 for the microfinance industry. So, the whole industry was challenged and under threat. And, again, at the board, we had a discussion about what businesses we should be in. And Vasu came out and said we should not just be in microfinance, we should be a diversified NBFC, which means we'll do auto loans, we'll do housing loans, and all of that, right? And what is the typical discussion that happens at the board that time? Are we spreading too fast? Are we taking too much risk? Will we be able to execute on this? So we had the same discussion of saying, isn't this too much to bite, right? And Vasu's comment was, Alok, if you have to worry about execution, then me and my team are not doing the right job. Now, this is a very simple statement to make, right? I make it to 15 people a day, right? But it's a very difficult statement to live up to. This is the least sexiest part of your business, but it's the most important part of your business, and that is execution. If you can do what you think you want to do, you're done. Right? There's no dearth of white spaces in India. There's no dearth of grand visions in India. I think all the risk is falling in the execution space. Right? So, again, from a quality of a great entrepreneur, the ability to execute is as fundamental as it gets. Please. Mr. Ashok Soota, 70 years old, still feels like a 30-year-old. He's the person who built Wipro's IT services business and then, co-founded and built Mindtree's business. Now in his third IT services startup called Happiest Minds, where we have the privilege of partnering with him. It's interesting how we found access to him. So I did not know him. I'm like a 38-year-old guy who has never had exposure to IT services. So when he announced his new company, Happiest Minds, I found a friend, PG, I don't know if he's there or not, and I said, PG, I need an introduction to this guy. So PG sends an introduction. Ashok is courteous, right? He comes back and says, Alok, thank you for the mail, but no thanks. So I said, fine, that's the end of it. And then suddenly, a few things happened in the next week or so where he said, I want to come talk to you. So I said, fine, you tell me the time. So he calls a meeting at 7 a.m. In Bangalore in his house. Still starts his day at 7 a.m. Tremendous amount of energy. And he seats me in front of him, and his first question to me, right, is, Alok, I think you've done some investments in the services area, and I want to learn from your experiences. Here's a guy, 70 years old, regarded as the father of IT services in India, if you will, right, seating me in front of him and asking me what my learnings in the sector have been, not to patronize me, but to learn from it. The hunger for learning is something that I think all entrepreneurs must adopt. Right? And again, the reason why I now feel confident was not a patronizing effort, but a genuine question, is because now I've experienced being on that board for 3 years, and his constant hunger to learn what's going on. Right? He's on top of SMAC today, he's on top of IXD and all of those buzzwords that Ravi threw out earlier. So coming from a person of his stature, that just hit me in the face. Are we learning enough? Do we have enough of a hunger to keep improving on what we are doing? This one's going to win an award from me. Guesses? No. You'll know him. You'll know him in 10 years from now. This is a person by the name of Siman Shankar. I don't know if he's in the audience today or not, Siman. No. He's here in Gurgaon. And what he strikes me for is innovation. He's not made it big so far. But he's in his fourth company, he's 33 years of age. The first time I met him, he must have been 25, and in his second company. He innovates discreetly, right? He doesn't go and build one more button on the mobile app and say, here's my innovation for you. So the 4 businesses he has done, first was a services business called BPS and apps, right? So that was business as usual. The second one was a company called Stratos here in telecom space. Attempting to create a market for voice ads on telecom networks. Right? This was 2005. The third company that he built was a company called Wavespree, which is an authentication technology company for banking sector. The company that he's currently building is a company called Flow2Go, which is a video on demand service, and the first partner is Airtel. Right? Each of these services are in a different space, telecom to banking to media. So this guy does not know, constraints and, I should focus on my knitting, right? He will go wherever he sees the opportunity. And he innovates discreetly. which means that what he produces will be 10x better, right, than what exists in the market. It's not 1.5x. That is reflected in part by the nature of partners he's able to bring on board. He's an unfunded entrepreneur. Today, Airtel is doing exclusive pilots with him on his video on demand service. Right. So again, innovation is the other characteristic that I think will take all of us as entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurial ecosystem in general forward. But focus on discrete innovation. Be bold about innovation. Right. So these are the 6 anecdotes that I wanted to share with you and leave you with the thought of what's your story. Right. If you're on the right side of 40 years, which I am now, you're not going to change yourself. Right. You're not going to turn your weaknesses into strengths. All the chance you have in the world is to take your strengths and amplify them 10x. Right? So find out what you are about as human beings before you are as entrepreneurs, before you are as businessmen. What are your strengths? And what is the way in which you can leverage that to the hilt? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alok, for that informative and very inspiring talk. We'd just like to present a token of appreciation to Alok from our side.